Hello all. Before we begin the video, let's discuss CloudFoundation. CloudFoundation is the premier online training platform to help individuals and organizations gain knowledge and skills in the ever-growing cloud computing industry.
Let's see this template. So this is just a user event script template where we have these three functions. First is our before load, then you have before submit, and then we have after submit here, right? So the agenda or agenda scripting template in the Suite script, the way it looks is you have. First thing you have is this, define statement OK, where you define all the modules which we are going to use. And then you have this function, where we define all the aliases. So like for this module which we are going to use, we are going to use record as an alias and record, and the app will be used in the entire script instead of putting it as an n/record every time. We are going to use aliases record, and then we can use it in the entire script. Similarly, like, these are all the modules I've defined here, and these are all the aliases for them. And then our first function starts, which is the before load function. Now inside before load, we have this one parameter, which is script, context, anything we can call it. Now, this script context parameter is nothing but it's a snapshot of the entire record, along with the user and everything. So, as we know that the user event is something which is record specific, it will be deployed to one particular object or something. So let's say, if you're deploying it in a sales order record, then this script context object or this parameter will keep a snapshot of the entire record which we are accessing right now, along with the user who is accessing it and other information about the user role and ID and everything. So this particular parameter will give us information about the entire record, the user role, that a timestamp and everything. So we will be wherever, like inside the script, wherever we need to use or get that information we can directly use this parameter to get that information. How do we use it? I'll talk about that in a separate example. So this is a before load function. Similarly, we have definition for before submit, and then you have after submit. These three functions are there now in this script. When you're actually working on a problem statement, and we are writing a script based on the business need or based on the requirement, you can define or you can utilize the right functions. Maybe you don't need all three functions when you're using a script. Maybe you're writing a user event only for the before load, but only with the before submit or after submit, or maybe combination of two or something. So whatever is needed we just define that. We don't put anything else in the script, right? So if I'm using only before load this, you will have only this section. We will not have this before submit, after submit, path. Okay, and then the last thing, which is very important, is the return statement. In the return statement we define a mapping between the script function name and the actual function name. So we can name these functions anything if you want to instead of before load. If you want to rename it something else, we can definitely do that. But here we need to define that mapping. So what is the script function name which is before load, and what is your actual function name, which you're writing in the script that will come here? So this becomes the mapping. That's how NetSuite, when you try to run the script, that's how the execution engine understands that this function is being used as a before load function, or this function is being used as a before submit. So this sort of a mapping which we have in the return statement is important. If, let's say, if I'm going to use only one function, I will use only this part. I will remove this before submit and after submit. If I'm only using before load, then only before load will be there. Now, let's say there's a scenario which is a very mistake. Which is a very common mistakes happens during the initial days. You as developers, you have used all three functions. You have written the entire logic, but we buy it by. Could be a manual error, right? Or a small mistake that we missed to defining the mapping. We have only defined before load and after before submit. We did not define the after submit mapping here. So in this case, what happens? Even though you have a logic defined in the after submit function, that piece of code will not be executed because it is not defined, or it is not defined here under the return statement. So we need to make sure that we define the right function mapping here, whatever is being used, so that it will be executed correctly. So this is a generic template for user event, and in other scripts also. At least this, and all these parts, which you see in the header, and the return statement will be common. The functions, the internal function, the parameters will change based on the script type. So client script will have a different function named suite, it will have different. Schedule script will have a different. But this part defining the module, and everything will be common, and the return statement part will be there. So this template is definitely there for all the scripts. These are all common. For additional information, let's say, as you know, what does before load? What do you do in before load? So before load function will it will be triggered before the record is loaded. And in this script context you have new record, you have old record, you have type. All that information. This is just an additional comment or information. So what is needed is, the piece of code which will be executed. You have defined statements, and then you have this function, and then the actual function. Yeah, all these are additional information related comments. So now I'll take one example here. And then we'll try to understand how it is working, and then you guys will understand how this parameter also, which is context or script context, is being used. Now we have. This is a very small scripting example where we have all three functions being utilized. So we'll go one by one. First thing in the before load function, what we are doing, as soon as the record is loaded, we are setting the phone number value as this value. 5555. It's a default value. So, as soon as we load the sales order. For example, if you load a sales order, the phone number will be defaulted to this, not sales order. Customer has a feeling right if you. Whenever we create a new customer record or edit a customer record, we will have the phone number defaulted to this value. If the other piece of code is, if the sales rep, if value is not, there is a field called sales representative. Internal ID sales rep. If the value is not there, then we set the value as 46. Okay, just a dummy example. Even if we can avoid this piece of code also. So what we're doing? We are just simply, getting the record. We are setting the phone number to default value. Let's keep only this part. Okay, Now what happens? We have this parameter called context or script context. You can call it. We can put any name right now in this. As I mentioned, this gives me complete a snapshot of the record. So when you do context.new record, it gives you a complete object of that record. You are accessing right now the new record. You're creating or editing.
And finally, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to our channel.